Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Leadership Void podcast. I'm Enrique, Vince, my co-host, hosting one more great leader, and we're so happy to have him. And I'm gonna let Vince introduce, but I'm excited about this episode.
I'm excited as well. Well, first, just like anything, you have to be flexible. We had to make a detour from San Antonio, Texas, and we have the honor to be in Fairfax Station in Northern Virginia to speak with Mike Black, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Concise Network Solutions. Good morning, Mike. Welcome to the show. Let's start off. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, good morning, Vince, and good morning, Enrique, and thank you first for having me on the Leadership Void podcast. It's an awesome opportunity, and I love what you guys are doing. I'm Mike Black. Given name is Michael Black, but go by Mike. And I am I'm a military brat. So I grew up being around the military. My father was in the Army for 28 years, and then I joined the Air Force. Went off to school at the Air Force Academy. And so if you put all that together, I'm 57 years old, but I've been around the military my entire life. I've been around leaders my entire life, to include my father and then all those associated with my parents. I served for 26 and a half years as a communications officer, a wide variety of assignments, rose to the rank of colonel, and culminated my military career, as the commander of the White House Communications Agency, providing communication support to the executive office of the president, name successors, and all of those that support the president of the United States. I retired in January of 12, so it's about 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago. Joined the private sector with working with the small businesses in a leadership capacity. I was in a leadership laboratory for 26 and a half years in the military, and naturally chose to continue on in leadership, and became a chief operating officer of a small business. And I'm with my third small business as a chief operating officer, and been doing that for 8 years since I retired, almost 9.
That's wonderful, and thank you for your service, a long one at that, and an illustrious one. That getting to the rank of colonel is not easy, and so congratulations on that and your retirement and your successes afterwards. Now, tell us a little bit about Concise Network Solutions.
Oh, yes, Concise Network Solutions is a service-disabled veteran-owned small business. The CEO is David Johnson. The company has been around going on its 18th year. I joined the company in 2018. Our core capabilities are structured cabling and distributed antenna systems integration. So basically, we call that turnkey network. Basically, the wiring, whether it's hard wiring or the wireless infrastructure to support networks. We're agnostic to the type of network. It can be a voice, it can be a nurse call, it can be Wi-Fi, it can be cell, but all of that, you need a network to have connectivity and allow people to talk and communicate. I'm the chief operating officer of that. We are in both the government spaces and the private sector. Primary government customers are the Veterans Administration. We want to go where we're celebrated, not tolerated. We are with the Social Security Administration and the Department of Defense, and looking to grow in others. And in the private sector, we support the major carriers, the folks that do telephones, and then hospitals, town centers, any place you can think of that would need network connectivity. We're involved in doing that kind of work.
Celebrated, not tolerated. Very well said. And hearing the great things you all are doing. So when this whole pandemic hit, how did you all adjust, pivot, or what was your model from then on going forward?
That's a great question, Vince. We had to adjust fire, if you will, to do things the way that we're conducting business in a pandemic environment. There's really no site visits anymore to do that. So we are relying on drawings and information from the customers. Most of our meetings are, if not all, are remote. via some kind of a platform like Zoom or WebEx or Google Hangout, those kind of things. So adjusting to do that was something that we had to do, and just really adapting to our customers' way of doing business as well. Nobody is having these in-person meetings anymore, and so being able to have enough bandwidth within my house to do that. I've got my wife is a teacher, my daughter's a teacher, and they're teaching remotely. So we upgraded our connectivity at the house so that we all could be online, exchanging information at the same time. But definitely a pivot to do that. And business has been impacted a little bit with that, but it's starting to pick back up. And we've got some opportunities on the horizon, the start of 2021, that will put us in good shape.
It's interesting that you mentioned the horizon, because that's what was following into my question. You know, that you guys are doing great things, providing services for those that need it, and more, now more than ever. So what are you guys looking at in the horizon? How does that horizon look for you?
That's a great question as well. You take, for example, the Veterans Administration and electronic records. That's a big move, a big push. In order to do electronic records, you got to have the capacity to do that. And you think about all of the VA facilities worldwide, clinics, hospitals, and support organizations, and the backbone, if you will, to support that. That's something that's on the horizon for us to support, is to help the VA build their infrastructure to be able to support electronic records. Other agencies are doing similar things, whether it's security or upgrading their telephone or their network services. So we're following that. We're also looking at hospitals. Obviously, with the pandemic that's going on, a lot of focus, a lot of money is going to hospitals to do that, and so there's opportunities there to support healthcare type organizations, and we're doing that in the private sector on the commercial side. So as I stated, 2021 and beyond does look promising with activities, and we want to be on the forefront of that, providing those turnkey networks.
Well, thank you for giving us an overview of Concise Network Solution. We wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Let's turn it over now to, standing on the shoulder of giants, and speaking of those leaders, as you mentioned, your dad and others that help you along the way. For yourself, Mike, what professional development areas do you work on to improve your capabilities as a leader?
That's another great question. As I mentioned earlier, leadership is a passion of mine, and you've constantly got to develop that. Surround yourself to be around leaders. So one of the things I do is I do a lot of reading about leadership, and I'm also writing a book on leadership. My book is overdue, like a library book. It should have been done, but it's not done yet. But reading about leadership, and I actually have a couple of books behind me here that I'm reading. Some are sports related. This is Red Auerbach and Bill Russell. If you know, Boston Celtics won a bunch of championships early on, and Bill Russell was a coach, so a leader and a player. And it's interesting to see their relationship with Red Auerbach and Bill Russell. Particularly in these times with everything that's going on with race relations and that kind of stuff. There was a lot of lessons to be learned in that. And another book of choice is Doing Business by the Good Book. This is by David Stewart, the CEO and founder of Worldwide Technology, who I've happened to met with several times. And it's a biblically based book, but he talks about his success in growing his business. And he's the most successful 8A company ever. Started out as an 8A company, and now he's a multi-billionaire. company, basically the Silicon Valley of the central United States, out of St. Louis. And then I read. I'm reading now Good to Great with my CEO. We read a chapter and discuss that. And then also I've read Tony Dungy's book, Mentor Leader. Again, I'm a big fan of sports. I think there's great analogies in leadership in sports. And of course, most sports have team involved. And so you've got to get everybody on the team singing from the same sheet of music. And that's one of the reasons why I gravitate towards sports leadership books, because I think that combination of sports, first, I'm a big fan of sports, but seeing how they mold their team to move in a certain direction. And I can give you all kinds of analogies about football and baseball teams where everybody has to be on the same sheet of music for them to be successful. You know, if one person on the football team is not doing their job and all 10 others are, the play may not be successful. I mean, if a person doesn't do their blocking, the person can come right through the line and disrupt that play, and everybody else could be doing what they're supposed to be doing. But that one person, the same thing with basketball, baseball. And then I've been around teams. You guys have been around teams your whole career. You understand that to get everybody singing from the same sheet of music is important.
Outstanding. I'm so happy to hear that books are in your wheelhouse and your toolbox, because we learn from others daily. And so,
Absolutely.
as you was emerging in your leadership roles, what advice did you receive that, after reading so many books and having served so long, you can say, man, these are solid tips that I can share with future emerging leaders? What would that be?
One of the biggest things I take home and I always keep in my virtual toolbox, virtual duffel bag, is relationships. Sometimes people think of that maybe as a cliche, but life is about relationships. People want to do business with people that they know, that they're comfortable with, that they trust. And so I spend a lot of time nurturing relationships, and I learned that from a couple of my mentors growing up in the military, and how important relationships are. I don't want to be asking you for something the first time that I meet you and say, "Hey, Enrique, hey, Vince, can you give me $1 million?" If I just met you, that's not going to go over well. But if we have a relationship and we're in a business together and working together, and I know you and you know me, you may be more likely to, or I may be more likely to work with you, because of the relationship. And this in entrepreneurship, it's all about relationships. You got to know your customer, you got to know your partner, and most of all, you got to know your people. I spend a lot of time, nurturing the relationship from the people that are on my team, and understanding what's important to them, and knowing that, and knowing your people. And if you know your people, they're going to respect you. They're going to care about you, and they're probably going to do what you ask because of that relationship that you have. Yeah, in the military, we take orders and do things, and that's what we're supposed to do. But you guys know that if you have a relationship with your team, they're going to try that much harder, and work that much harder and take it to the next level. And that's how you get from good to great.
Absolutely. Building that relationship, they'll go through fire, through walls for you. And having teams, you have to be on the same sheet of music. But at times there are challenges, right? So, talk to us about some challenges you have faced and what do you do to overcome them?
Well, I mean, challenges that I face. I mean, you always have to be ready for the unexpected. I mean, take for example my 26-year career in the military. All right, I mean, people expect dial tone all the time. I mean, nobody called me up and said, "Hey, Mike, thanks for the dial tone." But if that dial tone isn't working, they're going to be mad. They're going to be upset. And so I use that dial tone as an example, but it can be anything that you have to be prepared for the unexpected. And so how do you prepare? You train, you practice, you rehearse. I use that military acronym that you guys are probably familiar with, PACE. You have the primary means of communication, your alternate means of communication, your contingency, and then your emergency. If you have all of that, you are likely to be ready for what happens. And you can apply that in life, in business, in leadership. It's not just with communications, but that's an acronym that a lot of communicators use. Is, what's your primary means? Make sure you got that. What is your alternate means in case your primary isn't working? What if your primary and alternate aren't working? You got to have a contingency plan. Well, if all three of those aren't working, you still got to have an emergency plan. I'm working at the White House. It wasn't going to go over well to hand the phone to the president and say, there's no dial tone. That's a non-starter. And so that's how you have to be prepared. So you rehearse, practice, train. Training is so important, and providing the training to your folks and make sure that they have the training. And it's not just technical training. It can be leadership training. It can be organizational behavior. But whatever it is to equip your folks and your team to do the best possible job, that's something that you have to invest in.
Yeah, I love pace. It's literally what all of us actually kind of put into place to make sure our career didn't go derailed, right?
Right.
Because you have to implement some type of strategy in order to mitigate before anything happened, a potential a period where you're at a loss for words, right? Because
Right.
I'm sure I'm sure the president would not come back with some nice words, but in dealing with strategies and dealing with change, challenges, all of us have a way of dealing with those things. What are some of the ways that you implement strategies to deal with change?
Well, you take the last 8 months, 9 months. I mean, there's been a tremendous change in how we operate. Basically since March. Um, and so you have to be prepared, for that change. And so you organize with your team to have strategy sessions to basically, we call it what if. What if this happens? What if we do this? Or how are we going to do that? You try to be prepared for all the contingencies. You do your homework. You look at the data that you have, so that you can try to make the best possible decision, the best going down the best possible path. I mean, if you've got options to choose from, hopefully, in my teams, we've done our homework and we know that this option is going to lead down this road. This one's probably going to lead down this road. This one is going to be closer to where we want to go. And so we try to drive the train, if you will, the organization to go down that path. And that takes a lot of homework. That takes looking at data. I'm a big data collector, if you will, because I think data shows us a lot of things. Now, it's what you do with that data. And there's all kinds of data out there. And today there's lots of sensors. I mean, we got smartphones, we got cameras. There's lots of things that are being collected. So the information is out there. You've got to analyze that. You've got to have team members that are experts in doing that kind of thing, and then have decision points based upon that data that's coming in. And so it drives you. If I get this at this time, then I'm going to make this decision. But that takes a lot of studying, a lot of practice. It takes having the right people on your team. Uh, Today, data scientists are a hot commodity. A lot of corporations, a lot of people are investing in folks, and you can get a degree in data science now. That is so important. It allows you to be predictable and that kind of thing. I mean, and incidentally, the reason the solution for the vaccine is with us today is because of data. Look how fast the scientists have developed a vaccine. But that's unheard of. But it's based upon data, and people have done their homework, and people have put the energy in. And you can do the same thing in your organization, in life.
Absolutely. Well said, Mike. Definitely having the data will make as this unprecedented time, seeing we have solutions already in less than a year. So that's unheard of. And thank you for all the wisdom you shared, and hearing all the challenges and being copious, reader and avid reader, and giving the great acronym of PACE for folks to understand how to deal with of challenges, and great advice there. So, folks that are hearing you, how do they get a hold of you and or Concise Network Solutions?
Well, for me, you can contact me directly at mblack, so that's MBLACK at Concise, CONCISEINC. So mblack at concisinc.com. That is my personal email address. The company's website is www.concisinc.com, and you can find all about Concise and what we do. To reach me personally, I'm a social media guru, if you will. I'm all over Facebook, and so if you just look at Michael Black current situation, you'll be able to find me if you do a search on that. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram, and my handle is called Check the Mic, and check is spelled like the British spell it. It's CHEQUE, the mic, and it's all one word. So it's at Check the Mic. That's how you find me on Twitter and Instagram. And there's a story that goes along with that. I mean, I said I worked at the White House. One of the big things we did, you can see the podium back over my shoulder there. The microphone always had to be ready for the president. And so we would check the mic, and Mike is M-I-C. My name is Mike. And so it's kind of a play on that. And I got that. I didn't make that up myself. One of my mentors who I met with before I took command, Lieutenant General Edmonds, took me out to eat and told me all the things that I need to do to be successful at the White House Communications Agency. And he knew that. He used to be the director of the Defense Information Systems Agency. And one of the last things he said to me was, check the mic. And I said, yes, sir. Now he said, check the mic. And I was like, yes, sir. Now he said it about 5 times, check the mic. And so when your mentor, your leader says something to you and they foot stomp it, that means it's going to be on the test. And he foot stomped, check the mic. And so I've carried that so back since 2009 when I took command, check the mic. And I've kind of made that my mantra. So check the mic.
Outstanding. Thank you for sharing that. And we'll make sure to have all that information attached to the video or the comments so that they can get a hold of you. Mike, thank you so much for being with us today. And folks, if you want to get a hold of the leadership board, and we were talking earlier, right? When we were mentioning Good to Great or being a speaker, Mike actually took us up on that. So thank you for that. But if you want to get a hold of us, the leadership void at gmail.com is our email. Please send us leadership requests, things you want to see on our show, things you want us to talk about. If you want to be a guest, that's a way of getting a hold of us as well. So don't be afraid. You just might show up on here. And we would love to hear any comments you have about the show, things we can do better. We would definitely appreciate it. I want to remind everybody that if you like us that much, hey, put a like on the channel, subscribe to our channel, and leave some comments. We'll definitely engage in that regard, and we'll check the mic on our end to make sure everything's going good.
Yes, and we had the pleasure today to connect with Mike Black. This is his current situation going on here at the Leadership Void. As he mentioned, as Mike mentioned, we were checking the mic today, and we were honored to have him. And next week we will conclude the 2020 with and have the honor to speak with Kelsey DeSantis. She's the founder and CEO of The Plug Consulting here in Florida. So for those out there, we want to wish you a happy holidays, and we'll see you one more time to culminate 2020. But today, our current situation was Mike Black. Checking the mic. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great day.
It was an honor, gentlemen. Thank you for having me, and a great program. And I appreciate what you're doing with the Leadership Void.